I'm so going to mix up those two characters.
Well, I was,
Shut up, Foreman!
Oh, we'll get into that in a minute.
Oh, I have jokes for that, yeah.
we got all kinds of things for that character, and here we are in the spoiler room. Yes, it is Sci-Fi January, and we are continuing our trend here of covering films that take place in the future of 2017. And we've got another one on the block. Last week it was Running Man. This week it is Fortress, and I have a great crew with me tonight to help talk about this sci-fi film starring Mr. Christopher Lambert. And first off, we have the diva of the spoiler room. She is back. It is Dawn. Hello, Dawn.
Good evening, gentlemen.
Glad to have you here. And she's kind of the reason we're doing this. And she brought up, hey, sci-fi films that take place in 2017, and we managed to find some. So great suggestion there, Don. And next to Don, BFD himself, the one, the man, the myth, it's Glenn. Hello, Glenn. He's muted.
No, I'm not. What are you talking about?
He just didn't want to talk to us, that's all. How you doing tonight, Glenn?
I'm doing all right.
Awesome. You sounding better, my friend. Sounding better.
I am feeling better.
Good to hear. Good to hear. And next to him is a bowtie man himself. It is Mr. Paul Salzer. Hello, Paul.
Hello, everyone.
Glad to have you here to talk about this epic, in quotes, film. And next to Paul, we have Baby Spice himself. He is back once again, Mr. Scotty D. Hello, sir. Welcome back to the spoiler room.
Hey, great to be here. Yeah, pretty much.
Did Fortress have that much of an effect on you?
Even the words of Glenn.
Well, you have a little story of how you, the only way you could really rewatch this film, don't you?
I do. Well, I mean, I'd seen the film before, but I mean,
sure.
But it had been a number of years. I probably hadn't seen the film for like about 15 years. And I'm thinking, I have a lot of movies, guys. I mean, a lot of movies.
You do?
I've got basically anything I watch, I have on DVD. And I have DVDs, and I have backups on hard drives and stuff like that in case something happens to the DVDs. And basically, we're talking like about 15,000 movies.
You are the man.
I have not watched most of them.
you are like your own cinema oasis.
Yeah, video oasis. Yeah, that's a blast from the past for Astro Radio Z folks. But anyway, but yeah, so I'm like, oh yeah, I know I have Fortress, because I keep a big database, because when you have that many movies, you have to keep track. And I'm like, I know I've seen it in the drawers there, in my little filing cabinets, and I've seen it on the database. Sure. Oh, I had Fortress. I had the 1986 Australian film Fortress. So I'm like, shoot.
Although,
do I remember enough of this movie to be on this show? No. I'd really better. I can't remember. I mean, does Jeffrey Combs live? Does he not? I can't remember. So I was looking everywhere, like, okay, streaming services, Amazon, Hulu, anybody, Netflix. Is Fortress playing anywhere? Because it's now too late for me to order a DVD, which I'm not going to do anyway because it was too expensive.
Sure.
And I'm like, there's nowhere. So what I had to do is I had to sign up for a 7-day. It's the first time I've ever done something like this. I signed up for a 7-day free trial to Starz.
Wow.
Through my Amazon Prime service. And now I'm thinking, part of me is like, I'm going to cancel it and before the 7 days are up, and part of me is like, I don't know, there's a lot of good Westerns on here, but yeah, probably going to cancel it. I mean, I basically what I've done is I've said, like, okay, I watched Fortress on it, and then because that sure as shit didn't give me my $9 worth, I I basically am looking at this thing thinking like, okay, every single night for the next 7 days, we are watching something on this damn Stars channel app. What is this? Shattered. I haven't seen that in 25 years either. We're watching that tonight. Oh, look, that show with that Patrick Stewart had on. We're gonna watch that. We're gonna stuff I wouldn't even watch. I'm like, okay, well, hell, I haven't. I always wanted to get around to seeing Ordinary People. Maybe tonight's the night. Who knows? Just something to get the value out of, the free trial, before, if I forget to cancel in time, when they start to charge me.
Well, we do appreciate the sacrifice you made there, Scott, for the show.
Not everybody, not all of us did.
I was lucky enough to know someone who had a copy of it. Thank you, Dawn.
And Paul?
What? No, I was in the same situation as Scott. I looked all over the place. You could either get it on YouTube, which was playing. They took a 130-minute movie, or not 100, an hour, 30-minute long movie, and they sped up the speed of the movie so it would fake it to a 118-minute something movie. I didn't want to watch that.
Well, they also changed the aspect ratio on it.
I know, it was horrible. I didn't want to. I said no.
I couldn't even find that.
Oh, there's two of them out there that are like that.
First of all, I don't like it when people do that anyway, like on YouTube and stuff. But I was desperate. I might have done it.
And I was in the same situation. I was like, okay, let's go to my standby. Amazon's usually always got it. They had Fortress 2. I think they had the 2012 Fortress movie.
Yeah.
They had that if you had Amazon Prime, but Amazon Video didn't have it because you had to get Stars, and I was not going to do it. I was not, because I am not that big of a fan of Westerns either. No, I wasn't going to do that. So I'm going to do this completely from memory. So if I like mix up the characters, or if, that's on me. That's on me.
Yeah,
Because I didn't want Stars.
You do realize, everybody, this is now what we have to do. We have to, on purpose, give Paul the wrong plot synopsis for the movie, and talk about things like, and then Keith David comes in, and
the cameo by Sandra Bergman, man, I tell you. Anyway,
I'm gonna hurt you guys. I will.
Tonight we are looking at Fortress, not the 80s one, the 90s one, with Mr. Christopher Lambert, directed by Stuart Gordon, who is a familiar name, I'm sure. And the synopsis, according to Ibidem, is a futuristic prison movie. That's how it starts. Protagonist and wife are nabbed at a future U.S. immigration point with an illegal baby during population control. The resulting prison experience is the subject of the movie. The prison is a futuristic one run by a private corporation bent on mind control in various ways. This is an awesome summary.
Was that a IMDb?
Yeah, that's a storyline summary at IMDb.
That was something that was taken from originally that was on in some other language, like Polish or something like that. Somebody just tossed it through Google Translate, didn't proofread it.
That's awesome. So yes, Christopher Lambert stars as John Henry Brennick, and he's a disgraced general who's trying to smuggle his pregnant wife across the border because in the U.S. they have population control, and they are caught and thrown into the Fortress, a high-tech prison that has a lot of variety of your cliche prisoners in here, as well. It's run by the same guy who took on RoboCop. And it's from that 70s show. Kurtwood Smith is also in here as prisoner director Poe. You've got Jeffrey Combs in here, Vernon Wells, and a whole lot of special effects in Fortress.
Were they really that special?
Well, depends on your definition.
Well, there is a definition. It's not a very. I would say
very not nice or politically correct one. And we're gonna go with Dawn, Fortress. Remember when you first saw this film? Dawn? She here? She left us. I put her to sleep already. Look at that. Dawn.
Maybe she's checking up on her Stars subscription.
I don't know. Dawn, you're muted.
This was your idea, Dawn.
Oh, she's
going. I'm sorry, Dawn.
Way to go.
Oh my God. You've given him too much power.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
That's why we edit. So, yeah, she had a slight tech problem. So we're gonna roll here.
She'll be
Okay.
back.
So Fortress, 1992.
Yay.
Mr. Bittner, you remember when you first saw this interesting film?
Yes. Yes, I do.
What?
I got it from a video rental place when I was in college, because that's what I did. I wasted money that could have been spent on things like not having student loans on movies like this. I should say, this is not like an awful film. I think it's fun in its own way. Although I do remember watching it and saying, man, if that's the prison of the future, I'm fucked. Because if they see my dreams, I'm going to be zapped every night.
And it's set in 2017, and we're still waiting for a prison like this. I tell you, can read your dreams, huh? As far as we know, yes, that's true. You are correct in that. Don, how about you? When you first saw Fortress, did you see it during the video rental age? Don, is she left? She dropped again. Okay. So, Paul, do you remember when you first saw this film?
I did not watch it right away. I will admit to that. I did watch it much later. This was back when I did have kind of a man crush on Christopher Lambert. Watching Highlander a lot. I really started getting interested in Highlander, and I saw, oh, he's in here. I'm going to watch this film. And it was probably the late 90s when I first saw this. So I was much older, and I think I did enjoy the film a lot. And I'm actually kind of scared of how some of the things could potentially come to be, in modern age. So I'm looking forward to it, actually.
Well, I mean, we're talking back in the 90s, and I mean, in the 80s, we had nukes. That was the big scare in sci-fi. But then the 90s, it was more about overpopulation. At least that's the way it felt, because you were always big in the news of how many people there were in the world. So, yeah, it gave a little bit of a future, though. Their future that they have in here, we're not that close to it. I think we were closer to the Running Man's 2017 personally.
Oh, yeah, definitely. But I mean, there's some like the border controls and those type of things, computers that could potentially run our lives. That sort of stuff was definitely prevalent in here. So,
well, look in your pocket or next to your computer and look at your smartphone, and then tell me again about computers that run our lives. Hey, Scotty D.
Hey.
Scotty D, what about you, sir, when you first saw Fortress?
I really wanted to see it in the theater. I was a sucker for anything with sci-fi, and Christopher Lambert, God help me, I did like his movies for a time. He was kind of I don't want to say like he was like a superstar, at least not in America. Europe, he was really big in Europe. Here, yeah, no, but he did well enough. He had he had the Highlander, he had the Hunted, stuff like that. But this one, this movie, when I saw it, I thought, yeah, it's all right. And of course, I wanted to see it because of Stuart Gordon, and I would say that some of it's come true. Of the thing, I don't know if you want to touch on this later or not, but
no, go ahead.
There's like certain things, like for instance, you were talking about the different things that may have come true and whatnot. one thing that did seem quite relevant was that they make a big deal about the prison being privately owned by a very powerful corporation, and and the notion of privately owned prisons is something that has really come into like the headlines in the last few years. Whether most people in America were aware of it before or not, we suddenly see all these articles that, gosh, most of our prisons are privately owned, and there's also tends to be like this disproportionate convictions of certain members of society, and the fact that United States is jailing more people per capita than basically any other country are out there. So that actually has come true. And then there's the stuff that was kind of reactionary to the time, which was the idea that the families only get to have one child because of overpopulation was a policy from China. And now these days, I don't know what the status of that policy is. If that's,
I think that still is. I'm not sure because
it's
China,
still in effect.
China's so open about their policies. So.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. But we have, our relationship with China in the last, 20 or so years has gotten so much closer, and our economic systems have become intertwined, and some would argue that some of our government systems has become kind of intertwined and stuff. So now, I mean, it's a comic book movie. It's not. It's a very cornball movie, so it's not going to be true. But there are certain things where you're kind of like, actually, there's a little bit, a little bit that is becoming a little more relevant than it was when they made this dopey little movie back years ago.
Oh yeah, definitely. With the policies that they have in that, and the whole privatized. I mean, privatized police force and privatized prisons, and that's been a subject for a number of years. Even we saw that all the way back in RoboCop. Where they talked about privatization. So, and yeah, here we are now in 2017, and we do have these prisons for profit, if you will. So that is it did foretell that. So it was a little prophetic here, but you're right about the one child thing. In fact, that's the motivation for Mr. John Henry and his wife, who was also, I think, a soldier when he met her. And they're trying to sneak across the border to get their second child actually out because, well, the first child actually died at childbirth, but that they used up their one child allotment, which you could almost see the government pulling on that. But
the law lost the law.
This checkpoint here, Paul, what do you think about this checkpoint? They're scanning pregnant women.
Yeah, and she's got that little like metal vest on, and to prevent it, and it was kind of nerve-wracking. It was actually a very suspenseful part of the film because it's like, okay, this is interesting. What's going to happen? And sure enough, you have to expect this early in the film for something to go wrong, which it does. But I enjoy these type of happy sacrifice type of thing, and basically the main protagonist felt like, I sacrificed myself. I'm going to jail, but at least my wife's going to get out, Scott. I almost said scot-free. Sorry, Scott.
No, it wasn't free. It wasn't free. He had to sign up for.
It was Scott. It was Scott $9.
But yeah, I mean, I like the fact that John did this, the thing right at the beginning where he basically allows his wife what he thought to get through, and that was a high point to me. And so when that continued on and you found out more about the story, it was like I was drawn in. So that they did a good job with that, in my opinion.
With the checkpoint, I thought that was interesting, and it wasn't too futuristic at that point. So, Glenn, how about you with the opening of how the film opens up? You think it opened up to help kind of set the idea of what world they're living in currently, with just that opening scene there with the checkpoint?
Yeah, I mean, I think that sets it up perfectly. I mean, it's in essence a police state. Yeah, I think it's a good setup. It's quick without dragging things out, and so you can get to the prison right away, as opposed to some movies where it's like, we'll cause me with the force, we're about a prison, and we'll spend 45 minutes before the guy ends up in the prison. This one it gets you what you need right away, and then it's like, done, off to jail with you.
Not often you see people.
They could have been showering.
Oh yes, can't forget that. And of course we can't. It's just odd to see people escape from America to Mexico. Usually it's the other way around. So, and here we are with Dawn. Dawn, we're just talking about the opening scene of Fortress. And what did you think of this opening scene, and when you first saw Fortress as well?
When I first saw it, I love the movie. Watching it the second time, a little less. The opening scene, I agree with what Paul said. I thought it was an awesome sacrifice for the character to make, making sure that his wife got out, sacrificing himself. Very gallant, very gentlemanly, and then
Yep.
what happened next.
And then what happened next? In which he gets put into a cattle car and they get taken to the fortress.
Yes.
The futuristic fortress, this corporate prison, which I kind of dug that where they're sitting there going, where's this big, huge fortress? And turns out it's underground. Scott, what'd you think of the design of the fortress?
It's pretty good. I mean, it's a fortress, and all fort-like, and it's good that it is underground and stuff like that. It's I lived in a town that had where they built a state-of-the-art prison in Minnesota, and most of it was underground. You didn't see much. You saw like a little bit above ground. It almost looked homey, but not quite, And what you didn't realize is that there were several floors underground, so it kind of like makes me chuckle looking at it. And of course, it's a good excuse to set your thing underground, because then you can just shoot your whole movie on film sets and in like old warehouses and water treatment plants and all the other things that they used to shoot in to save money. So.
Well, actually, you mentioned saving money. It surprises me that this film was only $8 million. I think they got a good amount of value for their buck, wouldn't you say, Paul?
I agree, even though they didn't make their money back.
Well, no, but I mean, for the sets and everything that they had,
it was smart. It was very smartly done. They seemed very frugal with what they were doing. I almost think that most of the money went into getting their stars.
Yeah, it was like we mentioned. I mean, Lambert was kind of big at the time. Kurtwood Smith, Vernon Wells. I mean, these guys, I'm sure, did come with somewhat of a price tag at least. But I like the simplistic, yet I still thought they did well with establishing it and giving it a futuristic feel to it.
I just wanted to add, I loved the idea that they could build onto it. They used the entire prison population to basically expand the prison, and you could either go up, which they couldn't do in this situation, or you went down. So building it underground, a hugely great idea, I think, in my opinion. Building down was neat, and it was a great idea.
And since it was a corporate thing, they paid, was it $27 a day per prisoner? Yeah, I think it was. The more they built underneath, the more prisoners they could put in the fortress. So it was kind of it did make sense in there. Glenn, how about you? How'd you feel about the fortress, and how they designed this, especially with the budget they were on. Do you think they sold the futuristic feel of this movie?
I think so. I mean, they sold it futuristic, and they sold the fact that it's a prison. It wasn't, this. A problem I have, and this is more with modern sci-fi, is when they do everything is just so clean and crisp and perfect, and this was a bit rough, which is what I think a prison would be.
Well, especially one underground
that is kind of still under construction or under constant construction, because that's what these prisoners do, is they're always working. So, no, I think they sold that pretty well.
Yeah, I think so too. And here we get, after the stripping scene, we get a common theme that seems to come up in sci-fi prison films, or just sci-fi in general with prisons, is tagging your prisoner with something lethal. We saw this in the movie we covered last week, Running Man, with something with an exploding collar that popped your head. But this one, Dawn, what kind of device did they have here for this prison?
Oh my God, I forgot what it was called.
The intestinator.
It was a device, the intestinator, that's what it was called. I was going to say the device goes into the stomach and can either cause pain or make your guts explode.
Yes. And
I wonder if we'll get a demonstration of
and they
that.
showed it. Ooh, the lovely violence.
what? Oh, the lovely violence. Yes. What was you saying, Glenn?
I said, I wonder if we'll get a demonstration of how that works.
Right. I was watching this going, wow, they took the page right out of the Running Man book, didn't they, Paul?
Yes. Yes, indeed.
Because when you got a device that says, well, it's going to explode something, as we said last week with Running Man, well, again, the movie has something that says, well, if you go past this, it's going to and we are shown this with a toss-off character who, you knew right away that he was going to be, because he said he was only in there, for like 60 days? So that right there told you that his ticket was punched anyway, because he said, oh, I'm only going to be in here for 60 days. You're like, yeah, you're dead.
It's always the sweaty bald guy,
Yeah.
It's always the sweaty bald guy. Happened in Shawshank, happened here. The sweaty bald guy is the guy, I can't do this. And I think here, was it Tom Tolles who was doing that part? Yeah.
I think so, yeah.
From Henry, yeah.
Yep.
And it's like, oh, I can't, like, oh, yeah, this guy's he's got to freak out eventually and do things like, and of course they're telling him, like, okay, you got to calm down. He doesn't calm down. Okay, you've got to get back in line. He doesn't get back in line. Okay, now you're hurting yourself. You got to not go beyond the yellow line. Okay, goes beyond the yellow. You got to not go on the red line. That last chance, buddy. He just keeps going. It's like, this one, they're kind of, at the one point, everybody's like, oh, how horrible. I'm like,
His
kind
fault.
of was his fault. Yeah, it's on you, Tom. Sorry.
In the history of cinema, when has anybody listened to a thing like that? If that isn't the hero of the episode,
Yeah, that's true. No one ever really listens to that. But we get Christopher Lambert, and he's in here, and he's still, he's making the sacrifice, and we get to meet the cast of characters that live in our prison. And this group of guys, at least there's some diversity involved. Glenn, this band of merry men that our John Henry meets up with, would you say that they have at least a little bit of an original spin, or would you say they're all pretty much your cliche prison guys?
I think it's fairly cliche.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's just, it's hard coming with original, because there's only certain types of you see in prisons.
Yeah.
And it's, I mean, maybe a little, but no, not really.
Did you have a favorite character? Because we have we got Abraham in here, D-Day, We've got Maddox, who's kind of the bad guy who's the rival for John Henry.
Yeah.
Did any of them stick out to you that you liked?
I mean, Abraham a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
D-Day just because I like the name.
Well, he was into Explosives too, played by Jeffrey Combs. He was the tech geek guy who later on comes up with a way for them to get the explosive out of their belly, which I'm still trying to figure that one out. How about you, Scott? Did you have a favorite out of this group of merry men?
If you had asked me when I first saw this movie, it would have probably almost definitely been D-Day because it was played by Jeffrey Combs.
Sure.
And I was such a big Jeffrey Combs fan. Like I said, part of the reason I wanted to see Fortress was it was Stuart Gordon. Today, Abraham.
Yeah.
I liked his performance a lot. I liked what he put to the part that he was not one of these short timers who's all skeezy and stuff. He was actually trying to play along with the system and trying to do this because he thought maybe like that next thing will be the thing that gets me. Played by Lincoln Kilpatrick. He did a great job in this part, I thought. If you remember him from the Omega Man.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I liked his part a lot. So revisiting this years later, I'm going to go with Abraham.
Yeah, Abraham was really cool character and one you could tell they gave a little more thought to with him, and Lincoln really makes the most of that role. And they do this thing with him where you've got Kurtwood Smith who's playing the prison director Poe, and he's constantly saying, "Oh, well, next parole, we're getting closer to your next parole." But even though he plays it off, I think Abraham always knew there wasn't going to be another parole. Would you say, Scott, that?
Yeah, well, he was. Well, that's like a thing, he keeps on working towards it and working towards it. But Christopher Lambert brings it up to him at one point. And then he says it again. He says, "Look, I've just been clinging on to that, hoping that there was some purpose to everything I've been doing, but they're never letting me out of here. I'm way too valuable to them as is." Yeah.
Yeah.
They don't care. It's a corporation. They don't give a shit about you.
No, they don't give a crap. Dawn, how about you? We're talking about the band of merry men that Christopher Lambert's character John Henry ends up being roomed with in this overpopulated prison. Would you have a favorite character out of them?
Like Scott, back in the day, it was Jeffrey Combs, D-Day, and it still holds up.
Oh, yeah. You really dug D-Day, did you?
I thought he was a lot of fun. Goofy.
Makes you wonder how, he must have used his smarts to stay alive in there, because the way that prison was, I would have imagined he would have been, I always wondered about that, though, wondering if he had someone's protection or if he just was smart.
He was biding his time, waiting for the opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
To blow something up.
Yeah.
Because he wanted to blow something up, something fierce. And I gotta love those glasses. Though, I mean, how blind was he?
He was like Velma Dinkley.
I was gonna say he had that Velma moment when he broke his glasses, and later on when they're doing the prison escape, and I'm going, wow, just how blind were you, dude?
I'm not that bad, and trust me, I'm bad. There's that moment though. Don't forget when he's losing his glasses, but miraculously later on, when it comes time to program the computer, suddenly he can see again. I'm like, wait a minute, I may have missed something, but I don't want to rewind. And suddenly he's able to type in the code and see the screen and everything.
He can it was a big monitor. It was a big and he was looking up close to the keyboard.
He didn't see a giant robot in front of him before. I would say that giant robot is a bigger, howdy do than a monitor
Well, but the robot was the same color as the background.
I've
so,
got
you know.
I've got to zoom in on my monitor. I mean, my eyes are shot. I've got a long history with this. I've got to zoom in on my monitor. But let me tell you something. If you're talking about comparing the two, if I saw a giant robot in my house, I'd be like, "Whoa, giant robot! Let me get my glasses."
And Paul, how about you? Which of the prisoners did you enjoy? Was it D-Day as well?
I did like D-Day because he is a tech guy, and that's kind of me at heart. But I did, of all the characters, I liked Brennick, Christopher's character, because growing up in the 80s and watching the action films, Christopher Lambert is the type of hero that I think I could be. I don't have the physical stature of Arnold Schwarzenegger or Sylvester Stallone, and neither does Christopher Lambert. And Christopher Lambert, he kind of thinks his way through the problems, and that's the type of hero that I enjoy. And that's because of that, I felt like I could be that type of hero in this story, and that drew me to his character more than any of the other characters.
Yeah, Christopher Lambert was definitely kind of that action guy. I mean, he mostly was direct-to-video stuff, at least here in the U.S.
Mm-hmm.
But you look at him, he didn't quite look like the rest of your average the action heroes back then. So I can see the appeal, and I always just loved his voice. I thought his voice was back then. Yeah. Ever since Highlander, there can be only one.
And he has these weird facial expressions, which are nice.
He does that smile thing.
Yeah.
And that little smirk in every movie. And I was kept waiting for him to do that thing where he just goes, heh. And like every movie he does, it's like there's like some part where he'll smile and just go, heh. It's like the Lambert touch. It's like Clint Eastwood had, Make My Day. Arnold had I'll Be Back. And Christopher Lambert had, heh. So I didn't hear a heh here though. So
no, there was
that's probably what affected its box office.
It might have got him a few more dollars actually if he would have did the heh.
Needs more heh.
So these are the guys these prisoners you're most supposed to get behind most of them, except Vernon Wells' Maddox character, who was the big baddie. Or alpha male, if you will, at the prison. But the bad guy is prison director Poe, played by Kurtwood Smith, who, as we alluded before, we saw him as Clarence in RoboCop, which he was an awesome villain in. And this is a guy who later on, we'd see him in the 70s show, but Kurtwood Smith kind of, he kind of got pigeonholed into the villain role. But what'd you think of his prison director Poe? Not quite what you might expect from a film like this, was he?
Not quite. He played a really creepy stalker, creepy weirdo sex perv thing.
Yeah, it was. I totally forgot that too. After I didn't until watching it and then going, holy crap, I don't remember this part about Poe. Because he's got his devices from the Z10 AI that controls the prison, and they scan the prisoner's memories because, you can stop yourself from dreaming, and he peers in on their sexual dreams, and then they get tortured if they have sexual dreams after he watches them for a while, of course, because, he's just checking it for content, I think. But I like, he was a different kind of villain than I think you would expect from an action film like this. What about you, Glenn, with how they handled director Poe? Would you say he's a bit different than your normal villain? Because most of them usually are way more over the top, I think.
I'm sorry. What was that?
For prison director Poe, how Kurtwood Smith played him and how he was written, wouldn't you say he's a bit different than some of your other action villains in the day, the way he's played and written? I thought he was a little bit different. What'd you think?
I don't know. He's just Kurtwood Smith, so I don't. No, I mean, Yeah, I mean, he was. Trying to think of the best way to say it. My brain is kind of mush right now. Boy.
Subtle. He played it cool. I mean, because
Yeah,
you know,
yeah. Because he's not just this raving psychopath, which most villains seem to always be all the time. It's just, why are you evil? 'Cause I'm evil. Oh. So as I see it, a bit more subdued. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, especially compared to the Clarence Boddicker character who we saw early. You know, I mean, this guy, when we first meet Director Poe, he almost kind of feels like he you know, he is actually just kind of a guy there trying to run the prison until we get to see him looking in on the pervy dreams. Paul, how about you and Director Poe? How'd you feel about the handling this villain?
I think he was done very well. I do understand why he would be a voyeur, finding out that he's very much like a cyborg himself. So you can kind of imagine him growing up, because I envisioned him as being property of the Mentel Corporation as
Right.
much as being an employee, and very possibly he could have been one of the first children, you know, taken and basically put into that position and so forth. And so I could see him growing up in a world where he doesn't have any of that stimulus, so he has to look at these pictures of people. I agree with Glenn about how he's a different type of villain. I mean, I wouldn't expect a villain like I would expect a crazy villain to say, you know, when he was captured, to not basically give in, you know,
Right.
but he did. And that was just great. That was like a great moment. It's like, this is a smart villain. He wants to kind of live, you know? So
Well,
I admire that.
he's looking for life because they didn't play with it too much. We don't get too much exploration of his character, but outside of being the creepy perv, but they do kind of explore like he's actually truly looking for emotion and companionship, because as you said, he has been basically the product of a corporation. Scotty D, what'd you feel about Director Poe? You watch a lot of the 80s action films and such as well, and his villain, would you say this is a bit of a different spin?
Well, I just like the scene where he called the Highlander a dumbass. No, you know, Kurtwood Smith, before that 70s show, which he did such a great job on, we knew him from RoboCop. That was what a lot of us knew him from. And I remember him from that. I saw him do some comedy when he was a guest star on a show that everybody's forgotten called The Famous Teddy Z. It was actually a John Cryer vehicle that I liked. But you know, I was surprised when I revisited this, because I just remembered all those years ago him being like the villain, the bad warden, like you'd see in a film like this or Lock Up or any of the, you know, dozens of prison films from years ago. And he's a villain, but he's not the main villain. And he himself is kind of subjugated by the very system that he was brought up in and is forced to serve. And I thought that he's not a sympathetic character at all, but I thought the frailty he showed and how he really was kind of stuck in a prison of his own. They said that he had never left that room. You know, I liked the idea that he was stuck in a prison of his own, all that stuff. I think that they really worked with that, and Kurtwood Smith being more than a one-note actor really worked with that. I thought it was a great touch. And if that wasn't enough, that was one hella creepy toupee he was digging there. It was. I mean, did you see that thing? It's like, whoa.
It was rather creepy, and I wasn't used to him. Like, I don't remember him having that much hair. But you're right. The actual villain in here, if you get down to brass tacks, is going to be Z10, which we just get a voice, but it's basically the AI of the the AI of the prison that runs practically the entire prison, the robot soldiers and everything. And yeah, she's actually got a kind of a HAL thing going on a bit. You know, she's the actual programmed by the corporation, and she seems to really be the one in charge, doesn't she, Paul?
Oh, definitely. I enjoy her character. I found it very sexy. But I do like following the rules a lot. So the fact that she does that was very sexy to me.
Wow. Paul wanted to go to the fortress just so that he could have his dreams probed by Z10.
Wouldn't you? Wouldn't you? Come on.
Though it was a great voice acting by her. I thought they did well establishing the AI as a character in here, considering you never actually get a body of the voice. You just get the moving guns and the little moving things that looked like they were taken from another sci-fi film. I swear they looked really familiar. The ones that scanned their brains at night, which as this film goes along, of course, John Henry's trying to escape and such, and he runs in. He ticks off prison director Poe, and we find out that there's another level. Which, you know, the way the promotion makes it sound like it's the main thing of this movie, which is the you know, attacking your mind sort of thing. And while we do get kind of the dream scan, we only touch on it for a little bit of this film. To like almost thirds through about the mind wipes. Scott, why don't you tell us a little bit about the mind wipes and what the prison does with these people to get them mind wiped?
Well, they basically put you through one of those big old what do they call those? Geocentric.
Yeah, the gyrotrons.
Yeah, and they basically like throw you on one of those for a few days, and then they look into their mind, and now they've got like all these weird, corny video toaster effects in their brains, and that I swear to God, this movie got, you know, when the budget was slashed to about 1/10 of what it was supposed to be, because I looked for a couple different sources, and so it seems to be semi-confirmed that this was supposed to be a big-budget Arnold Schwarzenegger film at one point.
Oh, was it really?
Yeah, and then when they lost Schwarzenegger, he like dropped out. He got disinterested, and instead he did Last Action Hero. When they lost him, I'm assuming this is before it had United States distribution,
Right.
because there's no way Arnie's doing a Dimension film. But when they lost him, their budget was slashed from like 70 million to 8, and I think that this would have played a lot less cheesy in like the bigger budget version, because this is the corniest part of the movie. It shouldn't be too, because it should be the most interesting part. You're seeing all of his desires get wiped away, and then eventually they probe into the mind and try to get him back into sanity and everything like that. But it's all like done to these really cheesy video toaster, cable access chroma key effects, where it's just all getting washed or over and stuff like that. You know, it kind of like how Phil Collins looks at the end of the In the Air Tonight video, you know, like, it's just like, you know, yeah, some deep cuts here on the spoiler room, you know, and those things just made it look so corny, but they could have been some of the most interesting parts of the thing, but instead it was kind of, if you ask me anyway, the cheesiest part of the movie was him in the gyrosphere and the little video toaster effects that were kind of ruining the mood for watching the degradation of and eventual rebuilding of his brain.
Yeah, I thought that part was a little odd too. It makes you wonder what they would have done with a bigger budget. Dawn, what about you in the memory wipe Gyrotron from Hell? I just kept having flashbacks to the Wisconsin Dells here and the Gyrotron they had back in the day that people paid $8 to vomit on. What do you think about this method of memory wipe, Dawn?
As far as getting the audience to repress how bad it was, I think it was pretty darn good.
It's not me. It's just not just me.
Would you say this was probably about the corniest part of the film?
Yes, definitely. I don't know. Scott said it pretty well. So
Yeah, yes, he did. He said it well. This is I didn't
Yeah.
even remember this part of the movie until I saw it, and I'm like, oh dear God! I'm like,
well,
I'm like,
and
go ahead.
he goes and he gets his memory wiped, and then it's only supposed to be a few months, but his hair seems to grow an awful lot. I want hair that grows that fast.
He had that mane going on, yeah, the really long locks going on, and though Lambert did play zombie pretty well, drooling on himself and everything. Oh,
This,
and then how
this
know,
also. Sorry,
go
go ahead. I was just gonna say this also means that his cellmates had to take care of him, so that his cellmates for 4 months were like, cleaning and changing him for like 4 months. So my question I pose to the rest of the group is, who is the real hero in this movie?
Abraham.
Who got to change Christopher Lambert's diaper?
It's like,
is the question. If he wore a diaper, I would assume they.
well, they got to feel the quickening up close. Let me tell you.
Oh man. But what was not, it was odd enough that they came up where they put him in this gyrotron for 3 days until he wiped his memory. I'm like, oh man, even Flash Gordon came up with something a little more creative. But then how he came back was even more odd. Glenn, what solution did they come up with for him to get suddenly come back to his old self again?
I don't remember.
The kid in the pit?
Oh my God, yeah.
I told you the memory wipe worked perfectly.
The memory
Forced the audience to repress.
Well, yeah, because we get Karen Brennick, who we find out didn't escape. She's actually in the prison and actually playing her own card by hanging with Director Poe in his house, in his little castle in the tower, being creepy, pervy guy. But she takes advantage of him being a cyborg, if you will, and he doesn't take well to champagne. So while he passes out from champagne, she goes and she uses the computer chair because as it's dropped in some exposition, she happened to be a computer expert, just so happened. What
It's part of her military training.
Yes, what a coincidence. And so she gets to the chair and she does this memory thing to help get him back, which she suddenly knows how to get the memory wipe back. And Paul, this little kid in the pit where she's reaching down to him, what the heck, man? Help me out here.
Honestly, do you know how funny this is I forgot completely about the entire mind wipe process. The thing I remembered is the kid in the pit. That's the only thing I remember about that whole thing. So, isn't that weird, huh?
That is weird.
But I guess mostly because I think I like that because of symbolism, and how I always try to find some meaning in something that probably shouldn't have any meaning to it.
Yes.
Ooh, there's a rock that was faced 90 degrees. There's a meaning to that. They did that intentionally. So the kid, to me, had having him being this young kid, helpless and just lost in this world, that actually was something that I could understand. And then having essentially his wife bringing him up, that was all symbolic to me, and I enjoyed that scene. And like I said, I didn't remember any of the video toaster effects. It makes me laugh that it happened. I don't even remember any bit of that, but I do remember the kid, and that's the only thing I remember about that wipe scene.
Well, yeah, I thought that was some pretty advanced programming for her to get into his brain and then be able to program that scenario. I mean, you
But
know,
it's the equivalent of a story. It's like whenever you have the one person saying, come to me, I and that it's not really them doing that. They're doing more. They're actually doing the coding and stuff like that. But it's possible that the machine itself understood what her intent was and performed that act. It is 2017 after all.
it is in the future, 2017. So yeah, it could have. I thought that was weird. And not only does he come back though, but he comes back like in full form. I mean, it's like, he's been vegetable man for 4 months and he gets his brain back and all of a sudden, boom, I've got this. We got a plan. We're going to do this. And I'm just like, wow, that's one hell of a
motivation. It was like, my wife, she didn't escape. I need to do this. Boom. That's all you need. You need somebody that you care about so much that everything else doesn't matter. It's such a cliche storyline, but yeah.
There's a lot of cliches in here.
Yeah.
Though not quite cliche was they had a map, and yet Glenn, their escape plan. How well did this escape go?
It did not go well. Yeah.
Tell us about their adventure in the pipes.
How is he a general?
Well, he was disgraced because he did lose a whole platoon.
And he loses another one here.
Yeah, no kidding, right?
That's not fair.
Yeah, it's the big thing. He's like, well, I don't feel safe. I could never trust people with their lives. People can't trust their lives with me again. I lost an entire platoon. No, we believe in you. Well, that was a mistake, clearly, because
the fact that he got somebody to change his diaper for 4 months, come on. He didn't even have to say a word and that happened.
No, everyone, we're just speculating the diaper thing.
Okay. All he has to do is give him that little smirky smile and you'd be like, oh.
But you're right, Glenn. How is he a general? Because, we'll just go through the heat pipes. Not thinking people have thought of this. Just really was a piss poor plan.
What's the worst that could happen? They're just pipes used to heat a gigantic underground facility.
Yeah, we can just pop a hole in it and crawl up it. Sure, no problem.
Easy peasy.
Yeah, easy peasy. Well, they blow it up because, as I mentioned before, D-Day came up with this way to get the intestinators out of the people, which, Dawn, medically, come on. Wouldn't he have tore up the insides of these people?
Well, and I was trying to figure that out watching them. Where is this intestinator supposed to rest? They put it in through the mouth, so effectively they're force feeding it to them. Does it attach to the stomach lining? So is it stuck in the lining? I mean, in the stomach? Because if it's in the stomach, all it takes is a good vomit to get it up. Has it moved down into the intestines? Because if it is, God, that's going to be a blockage, Out of that, it's going to be one incredible poop.
Well, it did have a little nerve clamp, it said on it. So, but then how would have been able to pull it through their intestines?
That's just one of those words that they use, like to say, like, how does this thing stay in place? Why doesn't it come out? What is it? Nerve clamp for that.
Why didn't it touch their spine? It's like attached to something that's like associated to your excrement. You know, are they saying that we think with our excrement instead of our spines and our brains?
I don't know, but folks, D-Day comes up with this idea. They managed to get their hands on an intestinator still intact, and so they use it because it's magnetic.
Of course.
They use it to basically do the marble maze through their gastrointestinal tract to pull these intestinators up, which I'm still thinking the logistics of this. They've got no x-ray or anything. They've just got a guy with Coke bottle glasses who moves it around the stomach or wherever till it magnetically connects, and then he just moves it straight up, just about. Like, forget intestines and liver or anything in between. If it is in the intestine, you know.
Mark,
Yeah.
Mark, this is the future. Human bodies have evolved to the point where they're just a tube on the inside.
It is 2017 after all.
Yeah.
So that's true. So they blow the hole and they try to escape. That doesn't work. So he has to fight his way out to get to his wife, who is pregnant all this time, and she's been living with director Poe. And yeah, during a little bit earlier, as we mentioned, she wanted to protect her baby because anyone with an illegal baby, it becomes property of the corporation, and they turn them into little cyborg babies.
Yay!
Yay!
I mean, no, bad. Oh,
I think that we're learning a lot about Paul tonight. You know,
I think
we're finding out that he's like got like a big thing for like, you know, authoritarian things. Like, you know, he like. Do you like watch like The Man in the High Castle and he's like, oh, someday? What's going on, man? Thought we knew you.
I like that idea, but it's mentioned and pretty well not too explored much. But of the babies being used for cybernetic, it's mostly through dialogue we get it. But Christopher Lambert's John Henry, he goes out, he's ready to ace Poe, and then they find out that his wife's going to have the baby very soon, and it's going to become property of the company. So they take a break from Prison Break so he could go free his wife. Meanwhile, D-Day is able to hack in without his glasses now, though he was stumbling around before, and he manages to stop the cyber soldiers. And so you would think this movie would end when they all get in the truck and they leave because they did a prison break. Okay, great. The movie's end. The movie's still going, Dawn. The movie's still going. And then Dawn, she's having her baby.
You know, and there's multiple endings. So
There are.
I'm hoping that everybody saw the same ending.
Did we all see the ending with her having the baby in the barn and the truck coming alive?
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
Because apparently one of the endings, it just ends with her having the baby in the barn, and the whole truck thing with Clifton Collins' character meeting his untimely end
Yes.
wasn't part of the second ending. The original ending was the one we all saw.
Ah, so that was the original ending. Well, yeah, that was just interesting because here she is. They're driving along in their stolen truck, and they don't think there's any tracers or anything on it because this is 2017. Why would you have such a thing? And so they stop to have the baby, and so we take a break from labor to have a fight with a truck, which... Paul, we ran into this again now. You have a truck driving straight at you, so what direction do you run?
right at it. Come on. You have to.
Nino Gomez, who was with our hero all along, we haven't really mentioned him, played by Cliff Collins too much, but yeah, Clifton Collins, he's been kind of the sidekick, and here he is grabbing the pot of water, and the truck comes alive, and instead of veering left or right, he tries to run straight away from the truck.
Yes. Instinct kicked in, and the fight and flight response didn't quite go. Maybe because the intestinator whole incident screwed up his spinal cord, his colon, whatever.
Yeah, you keep trying to explain that away. Well,
And actually, the one thing that might make sense if we're really grasping at straws, he was trying to run into the barn to tell the other two about the truck.
oh, yeah,
There
that's
you go.
true because they wouldn't have heard the revving of the truck.
Well, not with her screaming in labor.
That's true. Screaming in labor. She's having the baby, and then the truck crashes into the barn, and Lambert takes pot shots at the truck.
Why not
and-
stop the truck when it was leaving, though? If you could control the truck, why not just stop it from leaving?
Yeah,
I still think Clifton Collins
Wow.
Jr.'s character was somehow related to Charlize Theron or something.
Oh, there you go.
It's like, I gotta run straight. Serpentine means nothing to me.
But, so yeah, we get this climactic thing where our hero takes shots at the truck. He's like, "Yeah, I'm gonna blow it up," and the truck runs to the barn. And last time we seen her, she's literally giving birth, or she's in the final contractions, and the barn blows up. But Dawn, what happens after the barn blows up in a fiery explosion?
Not what I hoped. Instead, what happens is she managed to drag her butt out behind another outbuilding where she gave birth very safely.
It was behind a fallen tractor, but that wasn't. I'm thinking of the logistics of this, and maybe we're digging too deep. I'm just having fun with this, but thinking of the logistics of this, she's in pain, in labor pains, yet she managed to get this tractor where she was hiding out wasn't like right next to the barn, was it, Glenn? I mean, this tractor, she had to travel a bit, didn't she?
Yeah, she did. Again, future people, labor's pretty easy once it's,
Yeah.
done, you're good to go.
But once you've had an intestinator dragged out through your upper GI.
Oh yeah.
But also too, she went through the heartache of losing her first child. She wasn't going to let this one die no matter what. So I could give her extra stamina bonus for that.
I was at the birth of both of my children.
Yeah.
Okay.
So was I.
That's a good thing,
Why were you
Dawn.
at the birth of large children?
No.
And no, she was not making a sprint to the truck to hide behind the trailer to have her baby before the truck blows it up.
You know what,
I
guys?
hope you're not being chased by a truck.
You know what, guys? I just think though that women are amazing,
They are.
and I'm learned long ago to stop underestimating what they are capable of.
This is very true.
Including running from a robotic killer truck.
This is very true. You're absolutely right. There is a chance. It was just an interesting ending to this film. I didn't think it would go. I was like Dawn, and yes, folks, you're finding out the crew of the spoiler room are pretty freaking dark. But I was kind of hoping there was the sad ending for our hero, to where he went through all this, and the truck that he took out actually took out the barn and his wife and his child number 2.
And truly, the only reason I felt that way is because this movie, like so many other movies, had that formula at the end where you knew about halfway through the movie that nobody was going to survive except for John and his wife.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just guessing which ones were going to die along the way and in what order.
Aww.
And it was one of those it was one of those tropes that really annoy me in a lot of action movies.
Well, yeah, especially the guys who didn't get top billing. Which one's going to die first? It's not if; it's usually when.
See, now a perfect ending for this film. Barn blows up. He thinks his wife and son and child are dead.
Yes.
Fast forward 20 years later, he's chilling somewhere in Mexico, and Cyborg Baby comes in. He's like, shit.
And captures him and takes him into like a space prison. Yeah. Oh.
Yeah.
His kid is now running the prison.
Oh, yes.
To which, yes, folks, there is actually a Fortress 2, but that's not the storyline, though. I think that storyline is pretty interesting. I think we've got a Fortress 3 going on right there. And I think we could probably get Christopher Lambert to reprise his role as well.
I saw Fortress 2. I don't know how many people saw it. I saw it years ago, like when it first hit video, because it didn't go to theaters in the U.S.
Mm-hmm.
And all I remember about the film is one, I remembered thinking that, come on, Pam Grier like just rocked everybody's world in Jackie Brown, and they've given her this. I was really upset by that because, like, you know, this was like just like a year and a half, 2 years after Jackie Brown. And and again, what I thought was that, yes, it's a space prison, and there is a sequence that I seem to remember where Christopher Lambert seems to be out of the spaceship in the vacuum of space for a good solid minute or so. And he makes it, and he's just fine. I mean, I know he's the Highlander, but come on.
He evacuated his lungs before he did that.
Yeah.
He was all hyperventilated and all oxygenated, so he could do that.
That's right. That's how that works.
That's science.
I don't even know. I can't even remember how it worked. I was just all I remember is like being home in my little apartment with a VHS player, looking up close to the screen like, this is bullshit. That's all I remember.
Yeah, well, yeah, Fortress 2, we won't go too far into it. Maybe we'll save it for another episode because that came out 7 years later. Lambert comes back, and as Glenn puts it, how is this guy a general? Because that summary is it's 7 years after the events of the first one, and Brennick, along with some rebels he's in charge of, are captured and sent to a new, more sophisticated fortress prison in outer space. So if you're in we're in 2017 now. So if you get put into this fortress prison and you see a guy who talks real weird like, and his name is Brennick, don't follow his instructions, whatever he does. Just let him go. Okay, because he obviously, is not
You're
the
not
best.
Gonna make it.
You're not gonna make it. He will.
Yes.
He will, because his name's on the poster. Yours is. So.
My credit's way down here. It doesn't even have a damn box around it. I mean,
I got to be Prison Bitch 1. Yeah, that's my credit.
That sounds like a movie title.
You know what? That's something we didn't talk about, is that when D-Day puts in the virus to destroy, to make the robots go all crazy, and so that the thing, it also sends everything going haywire in the prison. So, yay! Okay, our heroes, of which there's now like Christopher Lambert, his wife, and Clifton Collins Jr., and only his like second feature film, incidentally, are escaping. Okay, half the other prisoners are freaking dead at this point. They're like dying in like horrible ramp and elevator accidents. They're getting crushed. They're getting burned. I'm like, yay! Geez, maybe I shouldn't have been rooting for Jeffrey Combs. Looking at this kind of a dick.
He went out. He went out.
His whole point was to blow things up.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, you think he's gonna blow things up, but you think he's gonna be like, not blow everything off.
He was at his way out, and because the way it works is all you have to do is type the name of the virus you have and execute it.
Because it was already in the system, obviously.
They never said it was already in the system, but he knew where the file was, and he navigated to it pretty easy through that DOS screen. And he ran that executable, and sure enough, it delivered the package. But yeah, you're right. I forgot about that scene where D-Day delivers the virus so our heroes can escape. And yeah, you get all the prisoners. They pile into this elevator, and they think they're free, and the elevator malfunctions and drops them to their doom. But who cares? Because the three principal characters escape out of a truck. So
well, they are criminals, though. Remember that.
they are all well, but yeah, but you know.
Also, we've established that it's a totalitarian.
Yes,
it's like corporate,
they set the rules too.
It's like the worst thing. I mean, for all we know, it's like
Computer fraud.
This person gave Donald Trump a nasty look. So like suddenly he's been intestinated, and sometimes Commander Poe just like sends like a tweet out, and it's like
Great. You just mentioned the name of the president-elect. He's
sorry.
going to hear this now, and he's going to tweet at 3 a.m. about the spoiler room. Oh, hey, free publicity.
That's
Thank
great
you,
publicity.
Scott.
Yeah. You're welcome.
Well, I think on that note, we are going to wrap it up for the night. Speaking of publicity, we're just going to have everyone go down real quick. Just give your final thought with Fortress, kind of like we did with Running Man. Would you recommend it to a new sci-fi fan, or would you say, yeah, you can probably skip it? And then also let us know where they can find you at. Dawn, go ahead. Would you recommend this?
Maybe. It would depend on the person. Somebody older, especially a fan of Christopher Lambert or Jeffrey Combs or Kurtwood Smith.
Mm-hmm.
I would recommend just for the fun of it, with a lot of drinks.
And where can they find you at?
They can find me at intheaudience.net.
And Glenn, your kind of thoughts, would you recommend this, and where can they find you at?
I would recommend everyone watch this, and if you have a problem with it, you can come talk to me, and I'll make you watch Fortress 2.
Yes.
Then you'd be like, touche.
See, this is better.
Because it's in space. Everything's better in space. We got to put Hellraiser in space. We got to put Jason in space. Everything's better in space. Although those both weren't bad films, actually.
I am confused by let's have a corporation prison for profit and make it as expensive as possible to build and maintain.
Yes. Maximum security. Come on.
Yeah, but $27 a head a day. So there you go. So, they were making money hand over fist, so to speak. Where can we find you at, Glenn, when you're not here?
You can find me sitting on my butt in my apartment, or on Facebook, or on the YouTube with Guy Debunker Productions, GuyDebunker.com, or just follow me on Twitter at Guy Debunker.
Awesome. And Mr. Paul Salzer, would you recommend this, and where can they find you at?
If you're a sci-fi newbie, I would say no, because there would be too many things in this movie that would probably be like, but if you do like sci-fi, then I think you would enjoy this film. It's a very comic book-esque type of enjoyment type of film, and that's, I think, what this type of movie is catered toward. So if you're that type of person, watch the movie. If you're new to sci-fi, then don't watch this movie, because you'll probably be irritated by it.
And where can they find you at and such?
You can find me at Forsaken Film Reviews, and also at Film Jerks 2.0, which is part of the Astro Radio Z network.
Awesome. And you can, they just recently had me on there. I was honored to be another guest again as we talked Circuitry Man, where you can hear more about how Paul has this wonderful talent of bringing meaning out of the not so meaningful.
And Vernon Wells was in that film too.
Vernon Wells was in that one as well. So yes. And Scotty D, how about you, sir? Would you recommend it to anyone? And where can we find you at?
It's not that good. It's but you know, it's kind of sloppily put together. It feels like there's a lot missing, and it was edited with a meat cleaver. There's tons of extreme close-ups, so you never really get a real picture of the scope of the thing. But I gotta say, if you're looking for a sci-fi thing, no, way better. But if you just want to see like something that's a little over an hour and a half long and it's like a cheesy action sci-fi film, doesn't make a whole lot of sense, kind of something that you can just kick back, as Dawn recommended, with plenty of drinks. Yeah, I mean, you could do. I mean, it's fun to watch, like in that kind of, you know, put your brain on hold kind of way. It's not that good. It's not a very memorable film, but it's also, well, hell, yeah. It's better than getting intestinated. I'll say it's better than getting intestinated. Okay, where you can find me anyway. That's so I can dig myself out of this hole. You know. Oh, much like the movie. Anyway, the movieocrity.com, which, as I have promised, I am starting to write again for this year.
Woohoo!
I'm going to put some stuff up there. I've actually just uploaded something new, and I'm looking for some layout changes. If anybody has any WordPress know-how, let me know. So movieocrity.com. You can catch a lot of my stuff, a lot of the podcasts I'm on, a lot of the stuff I've written. Also, check my web series out, Movieocrity, which you can catch on YouTube. And all the episodes are available at vimeo.com/channels/Movieocrity.
Awesome. Thank you very much, everyone. Hope you enjoyed this conversation about Fortress. We got a lot more out of it than I thought we would. But yes, I agree. This film, it's for select tastes. Those who may be Christopher Lambert fans, those who are, you know, the cheesy 80s, early 90s sci-fi, if you're into that. There are far worse out there. But there are many, many more better films out there. This one wasn't quite as prophetic as The Running Man, but it still had a few elements in there. So, 2017, it's science fiction has made some predictions that have come true. So that's why I kind of love the genre, because you're never quite sure what is, what they predict will come true. And though I never quite imagine myself catching up to a few of these films, but hey, it's as the wheel turns. But if you want to catch anything that I do, as well as the old episodes of the Spoiler Room and such, you can catch it on specialmarkproductions.com. You can also check us out on iTunes and the Twitter at oh, my brain blew a fart now. Just like Christopher Lambert in those 4 months, he was a ghost.
I'm not changing you.
If you want to find us, you can also look at us at iTunes and Stitcher Smart Radio. Please like and comment us and subscribe if you can. And you can find us on the Twitter at Movie Maniac 3D or at Spoiler Room PDCS. We appreciate your journey with us. We've got one more coming up that's set in 2017, and that one's called Cherry 2000, and that's next week. So stay tuned. That should be another interesting and fun-filled discussion. And now say goodnight, everyone.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.